As South Africa celebrates Heritage Month, traditional fashion design is a thriving industry that offers a unique opportunity for entrepreneurs to showcase their cultural heritage while building a successful business. As a side hustle, traditional fashion design can be a lucrative venture of allowing designers to monetize their skills and creativity while maintaining their primary source of income. Well, today we are highlighting Stitched by Inga, a South African clothing brand that embodies the nation's heritage through its designs. Founded by Inga Sebata, Stitched by Inga offers a tailored and ready-to-wear clothing for adults and kids, blending traditional South African style with modern fashion sensibilities. Well, welcome to Africa Side Hustle.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here.
And just to start off the conversation, what actually inspired you to start off this business, most especially that you actually started it as a side hustle? And also, how do you balance your creative vision, most especially to a sensible fashion or commercial modernization in terms of designs?
So what inspired me, I've always loved fashion. So that was really the inspiration. When I was in matric, I wanted to study fashion, but you know, I applied late, and by the time I applied, the course was full, so I had to take my second option, which was PR, which I'm glad I did at the time. And then fast forward 10 years later, or 10, 12 years later, Stitched by Inga came back into my life, and that's how I started. I had a full-time job when I started this business, so it was a side hustle at the time. And you know, I went to the classes, I enrolled in an institution and studied it part-time because obviously I had a full-time job. And yeah, and here we are 5 years later.
How much did you start it with?
Sure. It didn't need a lot, to be honest with you. So I remember when I first started, this is now when I'm still a student, because you have to have the stuff. So you have to have the scissors, the cotton, the rulers, the measuring tape, and all of that. Back then, which was about 6 years ago when I was still studying, it wasn't a lot. I think the material was probably like 500-600 rand to buy the stuff that I need. The sewing machine was a bit expensive. I was using a domestic sewing machine at the time. I mean, I've since graduated to industrial machines, but my sewing machine at the time, I think it was about 7,000 rand to buy a domestic one. And that's what I started. So less than 10K to start, yes. Yeah.
And also from you transitioning for it to become a full-time business, what was the vision and also what influenced that factor?
Honestly, I did not have a vision. It came over time. At first, it just was going to be a side hustle, nothing big, nothing major, just to supplement my 9-to-5 income. I really had no vision of it becoming what it is today. And it picked up speed. More people started to know about it. It started becoming popular. It started making, you know, enough income for me to consider it as a full-time business. And in 2021 December, then I resigned from my full-time job to pursue this as a full-time business. This was 2.5 years after starting it as a business, and really it's the business that drove me to the decision and not the other way around. And it's because of the speed that it picked up and the more people that heard of it and wanted to engage the business, then it led me to where we are today.
And also you spoke about materials. So in terms of that, how do you encounter certain materials, especially when coming to prices?
I always say to clients that the fabric you choose does dictate the price that you will end up with at the end of the day. So you might find some items are probably like, the fabric is 2,000 rand per meter, you know, some fabric can be 50 rand per meter, and that's why it's so difficult to give a ballpark figure when a client wants something, because you have to calculate the fabric that you're going to need, you know, the amount of time it takes to make this.
So how do you incorporate heritage into your designs, and what message are you actually trying to convey each and every time you have a specialized garment?
I'm very passionate about the continent. So Africa is always at the center of everything that we do at Stitched by Inga. We love the continent and its vibrancy and its boldness and the color and the people. So you will also notice when you go through our website and all our social media pages that we are very Africa centered. So there's a lot of Africa that comes out of it. And the message that really we are portraying through our clothes is for us to be comfortable with who we are and the continent that we live in and the possibilities that the continent has, and not always look outside of the continent for solutions. For Africans, we need to solution for Africa with African solutions, because this is our home and we have to make it work here at home.
And tell me more in terms of suppliers. How are your relationships with suppliers, and also how important is it, most especially when coming to business growth?
You have to have a good relationship with suppliers. They will, when you are in a crisis or in an emergency, suppliers will save the day. So having a good relationship with my suppliers is always important. In the beginning, when I started the business, I'd be the one that goes to interact with them, want to know, what new stuff do we have, what can I try. Over time, as the business grew, obviously, then I took a step back from being the person that goes and sources fabric. Now I have somebody who does that for me.
With your business, obviously in South Africa we have a bit of a high rate of unemployment. So are there actually people that you are currently employing in the business?
Yes. I do have people that I employ. So we currently have 4 full-time staff members, and we have 1 part-time staff member. And when the business started, obviously it started with me alone. And then over time, as it grew and more people got to know about it, then I started employing more people. So yeah, so we have 4 full-time and 1 part-time.
So as a businesswoman, balancing business and family, how do you actually do that?
I'm very blessed to have a supportive husband and kids that are very understanding. Support structure when you run a business is very important, because the reality is that you can't do it all, or you can't do it all at the same time.
What makes, your business stand out to other businesses, well, both locally and internationally?
So, the competition question is always so tricky for me to answer, because I don't view anybody as competition, and not because they don't do the same thing that they do. Of course they do. But the reason I don't view them as competition is because I always see them as brothers and sisters that we can collaborate with in the future.
Wish I had more time to actually talk about this, but just before I let you go, for someone who's actually watching and wants to start off a business like yours, what's your motivation into that person?
My motivation is really the client's feedback at the end of that entire process. At StitchedByInga, we sell feelings in clothing form. We sell happiness in clothing form. And that's really my motivation, making sure that the client is happy at the end of the day.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Side Hustle. And that was Inga Sebata, founder for StitchedByInga. Now, as we conclude today's episode on this Heritage Month, remember that Africa's entrepreneurial spirit is unstoppable. Turn your passions into profits and join the movement. Now, share your hustle story with us on social media using hashtag Africa Side Hustle. And don't forget to subscribe for more entrepreneurial stories, business news and insights on CNBCAfrica.com. Till next week.